Alright everyone, welcome back again to some more of When the Seagulls Cry. Let me tell you all right now, serious stuff hits the fan once more. And I don't even know if we're even close to the end of this episode yet. I think we're probably still in the middle. So, yeah, it's picking up already and it's getting crazy. So if anything else, guys, I'm just letting you all know, prepare yourselves. It's going to be a hell of a ride. And if anything, thank you all for the love and support. And let's just keep on trucking. Alright everyone, welcome back.
未だに信じられねえ。だが、どうしようね。悪魔を証明しちまった。あんたの勝ちだ。
Oh, so they all finally meet. Finally, at long last, the family gets confirmation of her existence. I've been waiting for this, actually.
悪魔の証明は、そなたが好む証明不能への便利な言い訳だったが、あだになったようだな。
いじめるなよ、魔女様。俺はもうあんたを認めてるぜ。降参だ。
キリエ、まだ異論があるか？わらわは全員一致しか好まぬ。お前一人がわらわの存在を認めぬならば。
As the witch laughed boldly, the siblings started to panic. They were afraid of displeasing the witch. Kirie lightly closed her eyes, and after keeping silent for a while, opened her mouth.
ごめんなさい。降参よ。
Only Kirie had faced the witch with stern eyes until the end. However, she had only been able to resist acknowledging the truth for a short time. The reality, the being that was before her eyes, couldn't be denied. Devils had already been proven.
私も認めるわ。あなたはベアトリーチェ。後宮家の古文錬金術師。そして、偉大なる魔法の使い手。魔女であることを認めざるを得ない。
Wow, 6 hours. Halloween. Honestly, during those silent moments, I wanted to speak, but it's just I wasn't certain if I was going to interrupt the voice dialogue that may pop out of nowhere. So I was keeping silent the whole time, just waiting to see and anticipating what was going to happen next. And then it just showed everyone like going through what you call a catalog of scenes, and I'm just like, okay, well, that's fine. What was the sound that always filled the ears? The sound of the rain, the sound of the waterfall, or was it radio static? In that case, I want it to be the sound of blood flowing through the body. I want it to be the sound of blood circulating throughout my body, telling me that I'm still alive.
朝なのか?
The light entering through a crack in the curtain was faint, but it at least told him that dawn had broken. Kinzo, still in the same pose he had been when he awoke, still sitting in his chair and looking up at the ceiling, felt the blood slowly travel throughout his body. Judging by the clock, it was early morning, 6 on the dot. No matter how tired he was, no matter how deeply he slept, he woke up at exactly this time as though he had measured it with an hourglass. He didn't think that something like this was worthy of boasting of, but he told himself that while he could still do something like this, he was still in robust health.
朝を迎えたということは、どうやら最初の生贄は逃れたということらしい。ルーレットの目が幸運だったのか、我が努力の賜物なのか。
Now, I'm wondering if in this part of what episode 2 is showing is what happened in episode 1 that we weren't able to see behind the scenes, you know? So if the family died the same way that they did in episode 1, then I guess it's confirmation that this is pretty much what was happening behind the scenes and we weren't able to see it yet because the episode 1 was focused on the children, or I don't want to consider them children because they're essentially young adults at the moment, but I guess to the family, they're still children.
区別のつかぬところがなんとももどかしいが、それは言うまい。
But we'll probably find out soon enough because if that is true, then this guy will eventually be burned to a crisp. Don't know how, but we'll see. Kinzo was very slightly driven by a temptation to look at the other side of the study door, because he thought that maybe he might find the traces of a vain struggle to break the door, made by something trying to select him as one of the first 6 sacrifices. Oh no, actually, you know what? No, I think things may have played out differently because one of the key factors in episode 1 was that Jessica gave her mother the charm bracelet that she would use behind the door to protect her. So if the family got killed in this episode, then that would include Natsuhi as well because she had no protection at all. So, okay, things may have played out differently. This is probably just an alternate take on what happened instead of episode 1. Like, I think each episode is their own set of realities that Battler and the Witch are pretty much trying to square off against, if anything.
人間とは安っぽい生き物だな。人事を尽くして天命を待ちながら幸運を得られた時にはそれが単なる幸運ではなく、己の技量によるものだったとうぬぼれたくもなる。
So he wanted to check whether there was a wretched mark on the door. That is only human. Therefore, Kinzo did not check. He repressed the things that he wanted to do because he was human. By that, Kinzo could immerse himself in a feeling of sufficiency, as though he had become a being that surpassed humans. That's essentially just denying instinct. Or, you know, your self-awareness of wanting to do what you normally would do. Doesn't mean you're not human. He became aware of a human desire and forbade it. Things that a human wanted to do, he resisted. This eccentric and rebellious sense had surely given him a rare genius, which must have allowed him to succeed in his exploits as he revived the Ushiromiya family in one generation.
さて、ベアトリーチ。お前が取った6つの駒は何なのか。そして、次なる手はどう来るのか。 楽しませてもらうぞ。私の守りは完璧だ。前回のような無様はさらさぬぞ。
Now that's interesting. What does he mean by last time? Like last episode? Like, is he aware of the meta? Interesting. The servants woke early. They had to open the curtains, prepare breakfast, and complete various other tasks to welcome the guests to a new day. Goda was the most enthusiastic. He had been told to concentrate his efforts in particular on his work as a chef for the duration of the family conference, and he had been specially exempted from several tasks that servants normally must do. It seemed that Goda, who was a show-off, had a particular feeling of supremacy about that. He had left the preparations of the inside of the mansion to Genji and the rest, and worked on preparing breakfast in the kitchen. Genji split the work with Shannon and Kanon, and they carried out various tasks. Shannon headed to the dining hall and knocked. Last year, the family conference had continued into the small hours of the night. It wouldn't have been odd for this year's conference to continue all the way into the next morning. So she had knocked off consideration for the possibility that they were still having a discussion inside. But there was no response, so she opened the door and said good morning.
Ohayou gozaimasu. Irasshaimasen ka?
The room was cold, and it seemed that the conference had ended a long time before. On top of the table, there was a tea set from which they had probably been drinking, arranged in a way that would make it easy to clean them up. Cleaning away the tea was the servant's job. So if the family was too caring and cleaned it up themselves, the servants would lose face. Therefore, just doing this much for the servants truly was a pleasing act of kindness. As she approached the table to clean it away, she noticed that something like a memo had been left along with the cups. It had been placed together with the tea set so naturally, thinking it was a memo for the servant cleaning up, Shannon took it. Written on it was not a request, nor thanks for preparing the tea, but just a single word. Shannon looked at it blankly and read it out loud.
礼拝堂。
Don't go in the chapel. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Please don't do it. A small sound kept repeating over and over. It was a sound that would ordinarily have been trivial and insignificant. I hope I stop hearing it soon, then I could return to my doze, someone thought vaguely. But no matter how much time passed, the sound did not end. It repeated over and over. Ah, shut up. Who is that? Bang on the door constantly. As soon as she realized this, she woke up. Someone was knocking. Then she noticed that there wasn't just a knock, but a voice too.
ローザ様。ローザ様。おはようございます。
Okay, Rosa may be alive.
待って。
Ah, okay, confirmation.
今行きます。
It had been Genji's voice. Looking at the clock, it was still before 7. It was clearly too early to wake the guests. Did something happen that was bad enough to cause this? She felt their sleepiness increasingly fade thanks to this ominous premonition. Because Genji had been a familiar servant to Rosa since her childhood days, she opened the door a crack and answered, even though she was slightly defenseless in her pajamas.
おはようございます。早朝から申し訳ございません。
何かあったの？
はい。実は、礼拝堂に。
Genji spoke into Rosa's ear and told her something in a small voice. It seemed that Rosa couldn't understand what she was being told after only hearing it once. And after repeating the words back to him several times, she finally realized that apparently something strange had happened. Rosa closed her door for a second, and after changing her clothes, she immediately accompanied Genji and they headed to the mansion. The chapel requires some explanation. It wasn't in the mansion, but in a grove behind the mansion, which could be reached after a short walk. It had been built at the same time that the mansion had been constructed on Rokkenjima. So while its outside walls had been repaired many times, making it look new from the outside, it was a very old building. Rosa and Genji dashed through the rain together. Just like the previous night, the rain was falling in earnest. Eventually, they began to see the chapel beyond a sparse grove. If all she knew of it was its appearance from the outside, it might have felt like a place of dazzling beauty, where a pair of young lovers might want to hold a ceremony. However, it seemed that in Kinzo's eyes, that was a very secret place, and Rosa and her siblings had been harshly told not to approach it unnecessarily. So even at this age, and no matter what the reason for it, she felt some guilt in approaching the chapel, and was gripped by the fear that this would surely make her father so angry that he would slap her across the face. The servant silhouettes could be seen in front of the entrance to the chapel: Goda, Shannon, and Kanon, which meant that all the servants on the morning shift had gathered. Well, Baba Kumasawa. A short while ago, Rosa had been told the nature of the situation verbally by Genji. However, without laying eyes on it directly, she really hadn't been able to understand. Hold on a minute, guys. Let me check something. They're not gonna do it. I was thinking they were gonna do it. I thought they died. Or maybe they still did, they're just not showing it here yet to spoil it for us. Alright. Probably all of the servants gathered there were the same. Without seeing it with their own eyes, they couldn't understand what was going on. Because on the door that was the entrance to the chapel, drawn very large with a creepy sticky paint-like substance that made one think of blood, was something like a creepy magic circle. The servants looked at each other. Goda was the first to open his mouth.
申し訳ございません。普段はここへは立ち入りませんもので、いつ書かれたのかはわかりません。
じゃあ、最初に見つけたのは誰？
はい、私です。食堂へお茶の道具の片付けに行きましたら、礼拝堂と書かれたメモがあったもので。
Shannon held out the memo with a shaking hand.
誰の字？兄さんや姉さんの字ではないわね。それで、あなたはここへ来て、これを見つけたのね。
はい。
ローザ様、これを。
何？ハッピーハロウィン。
Kanon was pointing at a single line of English written below the creepy magic circle. Until it had been pointed out to her, she had thought it was just another part of the magic circle and hadn't noticed it. Written there in English were the words, "Happy Halloween from Maria." Did the witch kill most of her family from Maria? Happy Halloween from Maria. A wish for an enjoyable Halloween from Maria. A creepy magic circle from Maria. Happy Halloween. The only person who said the words Happy Halloween to Maria yesterday, the symbols matched. The Golden Witch Beatrice.
マリアは？あの子、いとこたちと一緒に寝てるはずよね。確認した？
申し訳ございません。マリア様のお名前が書かれていたことには今気づきましたもので、まだ確認しておりません。至急。
何やってんのよ。私はマリアの様子を見てきます。それからクラウス兄さんたちにも知らせて、以後の対応の指示を受けて。
After saying that much, Rosa finally noticed that something was out of place. Her own rank within this family conference was the lowest of the four siblings. In an abnormal situation like this, why had she been the only one called when the other siblings hadn't? Even if Maria's name had popped up.
まさか
はい。旦那様にご連絡申し上げようとしたのですが、お姿が見当たらず。
Alright, so Kraus is dead. Again.
奥様もお部屋におられません。
Not Tahi for the first time, or at least he's killed in this episode along with the family. That's what I'm trying to say.
シーツの様子からすると、昨べはベッドに戻られていないのかもしれません。
Rosa felt something creepy crawling slowly up her back.
礼拝堂の中を確認した。
いえ、まだです。確認しようとはしたのですが。
実は礼拝堂の鍵は特別でマスターキーに対応しておりません。1本だけある鍵でしか開けられないのですが、その鍵がキーボックスから紛失しているのです。
She didn't want to get any closer to the door with the creepy magic circle if she could help it. Rosa readied herself and approached, and tried pushing and pulling the knob. All she felt was the resistance of the sturdy lock.
入れる窓などがないか探してはみたのですが、もし中を確認するのでしたら窓を破らなければならないかと思います。いかがいたしましょう。
Do it!
そんな許可私に出せるわけがないわ。お父様の大切な礼拝堂なのよ。そんなことできないわよ。
Your family's probably dead in there, and you don't. Then the events of the previous day swirled around in the back of Rosa's mind. That's right. When I met that witch in the Rose Garden, didn't she hand Maria an envelope? Yes, I'm positive she did. When Maria had tried to open it, that witch had told her not to do that yet, and then she had definitely said, "The time will come soon to open it." Rosa became convinced, there could be no doubt, that letter which had been handed to Maria she ran straight to the cousins. After dashing back to the guest house, Rosa approached the cousin's room while hiding her footsteps. Softly opened the door and peered inside. From the inside, she could hear the healthy snows of young people. The 4 children were all there. Maria was there, sleeping soundly. After heaving a sigh of relief, she entered the room with quiet footsteps. She was after Maria's handbag, which was resting on the sofa. Maria always liked walking around with her treasures. She was probably imitating how her mother always carried her makeup with her. Of course, she was just copying her, so on the inside, it was full of junk. In Maria's case, it was full of small, creepy, occult-like items and a notebook with things like that written in it. Rosa had once been happy to see her daughter walking around with those kinds of ungirlish things. However, after she had tried to force Maria to stop, they had gotten into a big fight and she had decided to let it be. A western envelope with the crest of the gold eagle. When she took it out, she could tell that there was a heavy cylindrical object inside. She could tell by its feel and its weight. There was no doubt. This was a key. After turning around and checking that Maria was still sound asleep, Rosa tore open the envelope and tipped out the contents into her palm. It was a key with an old and intricate design. Rosa grasped that key and dashed out. It seemed that Battler noticed those sounds, but after grumbling and turning over in his sleep, he started snoring again.
Genji-san, この鍵、ひょっとして礼拝堂の鍵ということは。
これをどこで。はい、これが礼拝堂の鍵です。
Rosa approached the creepy magic circle once again and put the key in the keyhole. There was a strong resistance. After it resisted for a short while, it stopped that resistance with a clunk. Then, squeaking with a noise that hurt one's ears, it slowly began to open. Her voice reverberated throughout the massive room. Of course, there was no answer. The chapel had a high ceiling and the air was cold. And even on this rainy, unsettling day, for some reason it felt sacred. The servants timidly followed after Rosa.
Rosa-sama, あれを.
Kanon noticed it immediately and pointed. Over there was the altar. In the place where normally a pastor would preach of God's love, there was a table that shouldn't have been there. At first, it looked like a dining table, and there were gorgeous plates and utensils set on the table, enough to make you think it was a child's birthday party or something. Upon closer inspection, the surrounding area had been decorated with pumpkins and black and orange ribbons. They were probably Halloween decorations. And there were people seated at the table. 3 people on each side facing each other, seated in chairs. They could be recognized at a glance. Kraus and his wife, Ava and her husband, and Rudolph and his wife. But if you were asked if these were definitely them, you'd still have to go even closer to check. Because they seemed almost like dolls. Oh, they're killed again. Rosa and the rest had opened the door, entered all at once with the sound of many footsteps, and called out, asking if anyone was there. And yet, there had been no reaction. Even assuming they had chosen to ignore them, normally you'd expect there to be some kind of reaction. And there hadn't even been that. So at first, it felt like someone had set down some dolls that look a lot like them. By now, it wasn't just Rosa. Shannon and Kanon and even Goda. They were all fighting frantically against the rising creepy emotion tightly grasping their hearts.
Nii-san. Ei-san.
As she climbed up to the altar, she called out again, but still the others gave no reaction. Yes, by now, Rosa had accepted it. They were not dolls. She had accepted that they were those very people. They approached close enough to be able to see clearly what was on the table. Just like their first impression, it looked like a lovely banquet reminiscent of a child's birthday party. Plates piled up with sweets, glasses with lovely drinks, several ornaments in the shape of pumpkins. They were all decorated in a Halloween style, and while it might have been an irrelevant thought at the time like this, she thought that this would surely make Maria happy if she could see it. They were seated in front of that table and looked like they were sleeping. It was an eerie scene, as though a small, fun-looking Halloween party had been stopped in time.
兄さんたち寝てるの？
When she approached even closer to them, she realized that the candies were scattered all over the floor. There were candles. There were candies in very fancy wrapping, cookies, fizzy lemon sweets, chocolates. And they were all distributed across the carpet, which was covered with blackberry and cranberry jam. Of course. Rosa and the rest finally realized what the situation was. It was a Halloween party. A banquet for those not of this world. Kraus, Natsuhi, Ava, Hideyoshi, Rudolph, and Kirie, 6 people in all, were seated in the chairs, dead as though they were sleeping. How could you tell that they were dead and not simply sleeping? That was because they were, from their chest to their stomachs, vertically sliced open. The 6 of them were seated at the Halloween party, all of them killed, with their stomachs sliced open. Was the jam that covered the floor something that they couldn't finish eating, which had overflowed out of their stomachs? No! The contents of their stomachs had been splattered all across the floor, and that wasn't all. From their stomachs, almost as though they had spilled out. Sweets. Candies and cookies, fizzy lemon sweets and chocolates had spilled out, stained with blood, and had scattered across the floor. What could have happened to cause this? It was almost as though the insides of their stomachs had been stuffed full with sweets, and when their stomachs had been cut, it had all flowed out. Rosa remembered a gross-out meal, a turkey that had been served at her own birthday when she was a young girl. When she had put the knife in, from the inside her very favorite, but because no one had told her about it at all, bright red ketchup omelette rice had poured out like blood-stained maggots. Dripping, slimy, pulpy, sticky. Well, guys, this seems like the perfect opportunity to end the video here for today. Oh my gosh, here we go again, guys. If anything, we're going to continue on in the next one. So thank you all for watching.